shorter season.
And we are live.
Very, yes, short. Although I always enjoyed baseball.
It's 6:32. The chair recognizes a quorum. The president recognizes a quorum. If you please stand and we'll have pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You can have chocolate, I'll take all these.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our February 12th Planning Commission meeting. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. The minutes were they were sent to you, and they're from January 8th. Any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Move they be approved as sent.
As sent. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on agenda is approval of our agenda for tonight. Any corrections or additions to our agenda? Call for a motion. Marilyn moves to approve. We have a second? Second. Jason seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Business, continue from January 8th. Public hearing for vacation and preliminary plat, MAP 2301. Kevin Parnell on behalf of FFC IC and RM LLC is requesting to vacate a two-lot minor plat known as Timberlake Woods Section 3 and then propose a 29-lot preliminary plat known as Timberlake Waters. This 80-acre property is located immediately south of Cross Timber Trail and Timberlake Drive in Green Township and is zoned rural residential.
I'm Ross Droplick with Droplick Surveying and Engineering, and I'll just say that I'm here this evening representing the petitioner in this case. What I have, and it's been some time since we've talked, one, does everyone have a copy of the preliminary plat in front of them? That, or if not, I have copies. Just let me know if you need a copy.
Copy.
Okay? Two different versions, one with contours and one without. Which one would you prefer?
I don't need the Converse, I know the property.
Here's one with the contours.
It's dark in here, hard to see it, isn't it?
So, since our last meeting, nothing's changed as far as the submitted plats. Those are all consistent with where we were at when we first presented this to the Plan Commission in November. And I believe that the biggest point of contention at that point was whether or not, or where the status of the acceptance of the streets in Section 1 stood as far as acceptance to be taken in by the county for their maintenance and part of their street inventory. And at that time, there was questions about the core samples, whether or not they'd been taken, where they were at, what the results were, and such. And basically, we just got to a stalemate where we were tabled until a decision had been made by the county as far as whether or not those streets would be taken in. At this point, I'm still not exactly sure where we are, but I'm assuming that there'll be some discussion about that this evening. In addition, Ms. Parker had asked, and it was brought up by the remonstrators, that there had not been a traffic study done on this project. Ms. Parker contacted us and said that we needed to get a traffic assessment under the ordinance, which we have a copy of a traffic assessment, had a traffic engineer go do that, and we submitted that. So the county has that in their possession as well. So as far as that goes, that's where we stand on that. If you recall, Mr. Presnell had made the commitment that the streets within Section 3 would be constructed to county standards. That has not changed. There was questions about water and the size of the water mains. All we can commit to at this point is that we will put water, our desire and our goal to have water serve these lots. As far as the specific size, that will be dictated by the water utility. It's not something that we can go in and tell them we want an 8-inch line. It's whatever the water utility is going to require. So I believe that we've addressed that situation. With that, I believe most of you were here for those November meetings, so if there is any other questions, I'll entertain those at this time.
I got a question. Back there earlier, when I first come on this committee, I did not understand everything. So I went out there and checked that Saturday night about 5:30. And the road you got coming on the east side of the property comes back up to a certain point. And I was back there about 5:30, people were working, but they're not going straight down that fence road. They was going out into the woods on the east boundary. This sign says you're going to go straight back through there off of that road. It used to be the old entrance back into campground. But you guys are going there. So you guys were out in the woods, actually working out in the woods 30 feet from the fence or better.
If that has been the case, then I assume that there's been some sort of an easement or an agreement that has been achieved. I'd have to defer that to Mr. Presnell. Would you care to answer that, or? I believe that he's talking about, is there some
about the west side.
construction or timbering or something being done east?
Yeah, we just had the property timbered. It was full of dead ash.
Yeah, I seen the timber
And
truck.
then we also had all the old trees taken out. And so my son and his crew are in there cleaning up the tops and cleaning it all up. And that we cleaned out all the junk campers and all the sheds and all that.
Back, the front road up there in the front, he was going out into the woods rather than going straight down that road.
You'll have to show, can you show me?
The very east line, it comes over here on the east side of the property.
The east side there belongs to Joe Hankins. That's section 2.
Well, no, it's section 1, right there where you start into the new property. You're going out into the woods, you're not going straight down along that fence road.
Well, the old road, the old original bed goes through the woods, but the new road on the plat, the way it was laid out originally, goes down right along the edge of the fence between us and John Abraham.
Thank you very much.
So there,
All right. What I'm talking, oh, I gotta push a button.
thank you.
Right there, you come around the lake, over this over here, all right. You come in
Yeah.
here like this, right in there, you're going out into the woods. You're not coming straight down that line like the map says here, you're going to come straight down that road. You're
Well,
going
I
out in
don't-
the woods and cleaning that all up where you can drive clear out there. Why aren't you over here cleaning out the road here instead of
Well-
going out in the woods?
When were you out there? Because it's been,
5:30?
they've started down that last week, so I don't know how you didn't see it, because it's clear as it can be.
Don't tell me that. Right there.
buddy, I
Come
got
straight down
pictures.
that line. Are you telling me you're not out in the woods now over 25 or 30 feet out in the woods?
We're not what?
Are you telling this committee that you're not 25 or 30 feet out in the
Well, we
woods right
own the
now?
whole property, so we
our
can,
woods.
we own the whole woods, so we could,
But you're
or we want.
talking about a road. You said they're going to put a road down through there on according to this map, straight down that line. There's no, on this map on section 1 or section 2 and 3, you don't show it come out in the woods at all. You're coming straight down that road on that old Campground Road.
Well, let's back up a step. We aren't building roads yet because we haven't got plat approval yet. We're in there cleaning up tops, but that fence row you're talking about, if you want to get in the truck and go with me when this meeting's over, I'll show you where they are clearing straight down that property line. John Abraham's sitting right there and his wife, John. John, is that being cleared? So I don't know where you were at, but you wasn't where we're talking about because it's getting cleared.
I'm over there watching where he's cutting trees at because he's right on my property line. There's an old fence there that he's following.
No, not the fence line. Inside the fence line.
Well, Bill,
What's it matter?
on
The
the
old-
west side of the fence is Mr. Fresno's property.
I own all that.
He owns it.
Guys, here, Bill, he owns that property, so he can go back there and clean whatever he wants.
But what I'm saying is, I agree with him 100%. He can clean, but why isn't he cleaning down the road and then going out into the property?
The road's not even there at this time.
But his proposal is to put that road there, so why isn't he fixing the road up where you can travel back and forth on that, make it better for later on? And then go out into the woods off that road and clean up his dead breeze and his trees falling down and everything else.
Buddy, we're in there cleaning it. Like I said, I'll drive you over in my truck if you want to go.
I didn't been out there. I took my wife
The
with me.
old road that's in there, the original road
That
bed
they're using to
is
get-
still there. They still go in it. And we've been clearing between it and the lakes. They've been getting all them tops out. And then they started right there at the end of section 2 last week. And they started right down that fence row. And John and Jen can attest to it. And I will take you out there and show it to you. But even if we didn't, what's that got to do with the price of eggs in China? I own all the land. We're just clearing it all up.
You're wanting the county to take in your roads eventually later on, right? Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So why aren't you where they're packing the roads down, because you're gonna have to dig the trees up along the roads? No, wait a minute now, I'm being very serious. You're wanting to do this stuff, but when you dig take the stumps out of the ground, and you want to put a road over top of that hole, what are you gonna fill that hole in with?
Stone, it'll all have to be rolled and compacted, and we don't want to do it in the winter. They got to get it all out there first. After primary plat approval, he draws the final plat, he does the blueprints, and we got to go in there and we got to build that up, and then it'll have to be built up with clay and stone and rolled and compacted to county specs and standards, and you guys, the OT will be out there inspecting it, and they'll make sure it's the county standards, but I don't know what you're saying. You want us cleared or not? Because if we clear it, yeah, it's gonna take some stumps out, and that's gonna make some holes, and we'll have to compact that back. So I'm confused whether you want it cleared or not. I'm confused.
Bill, what's your concern? I'm kind of confused on what you're,
Well, let's go out, one of you guys wanna ride out with me tomorrow, and I'll show you what they're doing? They're telling me what they're doing, but they're not doing what they say they're doing.
well, the whole thing is that road's not platted yet, so that road doesn't exist
Well, it's platted on this rule right here,
yet, so it doesn't exist.
so this is not the final,
This is just a drawing. We haven't approved that plat yet.
okay. I apologize then, I'm wrong again, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I just didn't quite understand, because that's not platted yet. That's what we're going through tonight, the preliminary plat of it.
We would have liked to have been to that stage by now, but
Well,
we haven't, yeah.
yeah.
Misunderstood, I apologize again.
No problem. I do one of us is off, and it's usually me, so that's okay. But I'll be happy to meet you out there anytime and show you where we're going.
Got a legit question. That's good.
I'm new at this board, and I'm taking a lot of heat, but question, so I apologize again.
No problem.
Bill.
You got it, yeah, I think so.
Questions for Mr. Droplick?
I had a question about the staff report where it talks about this 1,100 feet of roadway that was not completed or bonded prior to plating. Has there been any discussion about what's going to happen with that down the road? I know you don't own it, it belongs to somebody else. If you had any discussion, 1,100 feet seems to me like it ought to be,
Yeah, and I can show you that.
Section 2.
okay?
It's probably the combination of that, plus that little short.
It's this. So you're probably going to put that in as part of this? you're saying? You're probably going to.
Yeah, that's something that,
I know, but I think it's unpaved, right?
all of that's is undone. It's not finished.
Right. But as this is completed, will that not be paved as these are?
I can't say for certain. I would hope that it will be, but we can't control it.
Put that in the mic, Ross, for us.
The owners told me today, yes, but
Yeah, in as much as what we're basically talking about is all the streets for Section 2. We are not the owners of Section 2. I believe that's JTH Development. And so it's their responsibility to build those roads to the standards that were to be built by, but for the approval of the Section 2. From the staff report, I believe, don't have it right in front of me, but I think that the suggestion would be that no additional building permits be issued in Section 2 until the roads are finished. And I can tell you that there are other lots there that are not owned by the developer. So if they want to come in and get a building permit, that's when it's going to hit the fan. If you tell them you're not going to get your building permit. I think the other things they could do is post bond. But there are other remedies, but as far as Mr. Presnell's responsibility, at this point, I don't know that there is any.
I understand that. I just thought there might be some negotiation between Mr. Presnell and the owner to get that all done as part of this section, so we didn't have that issue come up later.
I have ongoing communication with Joe as early as today, and I believe he got a hold of Kenny to let him know that he just said, whenever we're ready, well, he's ready. So we'll put our stone in across to him, and then he'll put his stone in, pave it all at one time. So he said, whenever we're ready, he's ready. Because he's, as he knows, he's got to put that in to get those, he's got his lot sold, so there's people going to build, so he's got to build the road to do that. But he conveyed that. Now, he was going to call Kenny or somebody today, or Terry, and let him know, you know, he's committed to do that.
It would just be nice to clean it all up out there while you're in the process of building another section.
yes.
You're singing to the choir. I would love to have Section 2 cleaned up.
Could we get that in the minutes so that we have something to go back to at some point?
It's already.
The singing in the choir part, or,
No, that we're
We'll
gonna get the
have
roads
Kenny
built.
put it in the minutes for us,
Well,
what the
I think-
discussion was.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate, though.
I get you.
What happens if it doesn't? I mean, we don't want to feel that we're being held up if, for some chance, that doesn't. We hope that it does. And that would, in the ideal world, you know, that's what we're envisioning that happening. But we can't quite make a commitment for someone else. You know, and that's where you're sort of asking us to make a commitment for someone else.
Well, it might just save people a lot of trouble when they don't get
Oh, I know.
building permits and that kind of thing. Since it came up, I thought I would ask about it because
Yeah.
it's a good time to negotiate between the two owners.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Joe's got all his.
that's all I'm asking.
The other good part is Joe's got all those lots sold, but he's building on the two by the lake closest to us. So I figure he's motivated to
Probably
get that done, but I think he conveyed to the county. And his plat's approved, so he's got to build it the way his plat's approved.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Uplick? Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President, you got anything else you'd like to say? No? Mr. Curry?
I don't have anything further to say.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Mr. Abram, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Not at this point in time.
We'll move to tech reports. Laura, do you have any new thing to add to our tech reports besides what's added here?
No, I just want to make sure that you're aware that the new county engineer is with us tonight, and
Yeah.
this information is in your packet.
I was going to call Justin up here. Justin, would you like to come?
Good evening, Plan Commission members. I'm your new county engineer as of the last 5 months. My name is Justin Schneck, so nice to be in front of you for the first time. Just to let you guys know, I was brought into the loop regarding these subdivisions, and we went out to inspect Phase 1, the condition of the roadways. From everything that we can tell, they are in compliance with the county standards regarding geometric requirements, horizontal, vertical curvature, all that good stuff. We did take 4 cores, 1 in each quadrant of the subdivision. We found that all 4 except 1 met the county thickness of 4 inches. That'd be 1 inch of surface and 3 inches of binder. The one road that did not meet the standard is on a cul-de-sac road that no future traffic is anticipated to be placed on, so we don't think it will deteriorate any further. The only really problem we had with the roadways was their advanced age due to being constructed, over a decade ago and having sat until now until we take them into our inventory, if you will. As kind of a solution to that, the roads are in generally good shape, but we would ask that the HOA cover the cost of crack sealing to help prolong the service life of those roadways until eventually they will need a resurfacing treatment in the next 7 to 5 years. So with that being said, the roads in Section 1 do meet the standards, and we would just ask that, if we were to accept them as was voted at the last commissioner meeting, we would need a deed of dedication, and also the HOA would need to cover the cost of that crack seal. Happy to answer any questions you guys have about the section.
Any questions? Nope, not. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
We'll move on to persons of interest that signed up. Mr. Howard?
Hello, my name is Joe Howard. I'm a resident of Section 1, Timberlake Woods. I've been there since 2008, and I'm just here with 5 light items that I want to go over, and I'll hand you this sheet when I'm done. Just 5 items that I think need to be drastically taken into consideration, given what I've seen, heard, and smelled since last April to the present day with regards to the work that's being done out there, and the confidence or consideration that's being exemplified thus far. Unfortunately, that's kind of led me to stand up here today. Otherwise, I might not be standing here. So line item number 1 is a construction entrance. I request the Morgan County Plan Commission to require a construction entrance for further construction, land clearing, and home builds in Section 3 for the years to come and until 90% of the homes built in Section 3 are complete and inhabited. This would help eliminate a debris field of mud, dirt, rocks, gravel, sticks, and grass that is commonly spread to date on Timberlake Drive from the entrance of Section 2 to the entrance of Timberlake Woods off Egbert Road for the past 11 months. This would help eliminate the recent and somewhat regular heavy equipment travel along the now soon-to-be county-owned Timberlake Drive. Semi-tractors, dump trucks, heavy equipment trailers have been common on Timberlake Drive since April of 2023 through as recently as February 5th that I've seen with my own eyes. This would possibly provide a point of removal for the ongoing trash that to date has been regularly burned in Section 3, causing black smoke to engulf Timberlake Woods to the point where I have requested to my kids to not go outside on 2 occasions. Maybe with a construction entrance, this black smoke, which is generated by burning trash, can instead be removed, thereby having no continued environmental effect on the residents of Timberlake Woods Section 1. You may think that I am exaggerating. I am not. I've driven down Williams Road on 2 occasions, southbound, with Timberlake Woods Section 1 in sight to see that entire neighborhood engulfed in smoke. It was not the Canadian wildfires, I assure you. A construction entrance would grant not only a very reasonable and intelligent request to protect the main entrance of Timberlake Woods, which at present is the main and only entrance to Section 2 and Section 3, but also the finished road of Timberlake Drive, which to my understanding will be utilized to date as the only point of entrance for Section 2 and Section 3, and of course, the present Section 1. In short, if the developer wants to grant a positive first impression and continue selling lots and houses in Section 3, seriously consider a construction entrance so as not to continue down the current path of dirtying and potentially damaging our only and current point of entrance into all three of these sections. Line item number 2. A second point of permanent entry/exit. I request the Morgan County Plan Commission to require a second point of permanent automotive road entrance/exit be required for Section 3 to offset the impending increase in traffic and its effects for the current residents of Section 1. At present, if left unchanged, there will be only one point of entry for Section 1, 2, and 3. The residents of Section 1, Timberlake Woods, have an investment, and current residents, which since their land and homes were purchased have resided with the understanding that the traffic in our neighborhood would be minimal and limited to the residents of Section 1 and possibly Section 2. That was a selling point for those residing in Section 1 to date. The value of our properties is influenced by not only the exterior perceived quality of our homes, but also the business of our neighborhood streets. In short, a major selling point for our current neighborhood is the small size of our neighborhood, the limited homes, and the limited usage of our streets. Our neighborhood is small, safe, quiet, and traveled on a very minimal level relative to most suburban neighborhoods surrounding Martinsville and Indianapolis. Those traits are valued, desired, and reflected not only by the residents of Section 1, but also the value in our homes. Now the residents of Section 1 are envisioning increased traffic by a large percentage, increased road and car noise levels, and a resultant lack of use of our streets from a recreational standpoint. This will be more than double the amount of traffic in our neighborhood at least. This change in way of life, property values, noise levels, and decreased recreational usage of our streets could be drastically minimized by the county requiring a second and permanent point of entry and exit into Section 3. Line item number 3, home design requirements. I request the Morgan County Plan Commission to require from Section 3 at minimum a housing design requirement that meets or exceeds the current HOA covenants of Section 1, so future home build sites do not have a negative impact on current home values and perceptions for existing homes in Section 1. If allowed, right now, there will be 3 different HOAs in existence for 3 different sections with private properties between the 3 sections, in some cases, sharing property lines. If allowed, there will be 3 different sets of covenants for 3 different subdivisions, all seamlessly connected, sometimes sharing property lines with current residents of Section 1, without any physical distinction between the 3 subdivisions in the forms of hills, streets, berms, landscaping, signage, or any other noticeable or obvious distinction. In short, all 3 of these subdivisions are going to look like one to the average bystander. In short, the houses built in Section 2 and Section 3 are physically, seamlessly linked to the homes in Section 1, yet outside the standards of the covenants of Section 1, yet also having distinct perceived influence on the quality of homes and the way of life in Section 1. I'm a firm believer that anybody who owns land should have a right to do with it what they want. I believe that, but also at the standpoint, I think that should be considered with regards to how it affects the neighbors, and that's what that line item's all about. Road design, I think you guys have stumbled upon it, but I'll just read the main point. I request the Morgan County Plan Commission to require from Section 2 and Section 3 at minimum a road design that meets or exceeds the current road design of Section 1, so future road sites do not have a negative impact on current home values and perceptions for existing homes in Section 1. Last item, number 5. Section 3, signage or physical distinction. I request the Morgan County Plan Commission to require from Section 3 at minimum permanent physical signage or natural organic physical distinction indicating a change of subdivision ownership relative to Section 1. Placed at entrances to Section 3 along the roads of Timberlake Drive, which will be an extension all the way to Section 3, and Cross Timbers Trails, and, if approved, at the second permanent entrance that was previously requested. Given the intent to have separate HOAs for Section 2 and Section 3 that will allegedly be independent to Section 1, with roads that are currently unfinished, with intended lots that share identical property lines with established residents of Section 1, I request that some form of physical separation or signage be required and placed in public areas in each respective entrance to Section 3 on their respective land, thereby indicating to potential home and lot buyers that the entrance sign presently located at the intersection of Timberlake Drive and Egbert Road, which indicates Timberlake Woods does not apply to the subdivisions of Section 2 and Section 3, because they don't. In short, the subdivisions need to be publicly marked as Section 1 is at present, so as to not mislead residents of any subdivision as to what HOA they might potentially belong to. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
You guys got any questions? No? Thank you. Libby Arnold? You good? Okay. Everett Formell? You're good? We will move on to opposition. Lindsay Wagle?
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Weigel. I'm the secretary of the HOA of Timberlake Woods. So 20 years ago, when the initial plans for this development were set in motion, there was originally a lot of opposition from residents of Green Township to preserve the rural character of this area of Morgan County. Yet, despite valid concerns raised by the community, this development was approved for Section 1 and 2, and a plan for Section 3 was proposed. During the approval process, corners were cut, critical safeguards for future lot owners were neglected, the absence of a surety bond, a fundamental measure for protection, raises serious doubts about the thoroughness of the original planning process. While the current UDO, which has more strict mandates than previously, was not in place during this time, there were still developmental standards that needed to be met, as well as an opportunity for the Planning Commission to ensure the residents of Green Township that they were heard, respected, and listened to. In the face of substantial opposition, one would have expected greater scrutiny on the constraints to be placed on this development 20 years ago. Situated in the heart of rural Green Township, it's imperative that we ensure the preservation of its rural character while still facilitating progress. Measures such as mandating open space within the development or stipulating larger lots to maintain the rural ambiance and preventing the subdivisions from jarringly disrupting the surrounding farmland should have been an integral component of the initial planning. So I ask, as we look ahead to further expansion in Green Township, let us not repeat the oversights of the past. Let's instead commit ourselves to a vision of development that harmonizes progress with preservation, ensuring that our township retains its unique identity for generations to come. I would first like to recognize that the county has taken some ownership for the past pitfalls. Since the November 2023 meeting, the county has helped our neighborhood navigate the procedure to get our roads turned over to the county as was originally intended. For those that are not aware, Section 1 and 2 were never required to have a surety bond. Therefore, instead the developer was working with the county to get the roads, instead of the developer working with the county to get the roads out of his name, he quit deeded the roads to the HOA without our ability to accept them, approve the transfer, or have the opportunity to inspect the quality and completeness of the construction as performed. And this was due to the fact that the county approved or did not require a surety bond. This left us feeling unknown with questions of how to navigate from there. We're hoping that situations like this don't happen in the future, either to our neighborhood, our future residents, or any other neighborhood in the county. And I hope the county has learned from the pitfalls from 20 years ago. As of the commissioners' meeting on February 5th, again, as Jason mentioned, pending us having the road sealed and getting a dedication of deed, Section 1's roads will be taken over by the county, and our HOA is very thankful for this, as it has been a topic of discussion for too long in our neighborhood. With that being said, the road maintenance of Section 1 will now be the county's responsibility from here on forth if increased traffic causes damages. More importantly, if construction traffic causes damages. As noted by the county engineer, our roads are getting close to their lifespan. If heightened traffic from large construction vehicles might accelerate the deterioration of these roads, resulting in additional expenses for taxpayers and road repairs that can be avoided. We asked the Planning Commission to require a construction entrance to protect this newly acquired asset of the county's. If a construction entrance is not a viable option, then we request that the Planning Commission increase the surety bond requirement or have the developer provide a road deposit for Section 1's roads for any damage that may occur during the development of Section 3. I urge the county to consider not only the potential tax revenue gains from this development, but also the potential costs it may accrue as a consequence. I would now like to transition into looking at the UDO and remind you all why the UDO was put into place. The standards listed in the UDO are, and I quote, intended to provide quality development that promotes public health, safety, and general welfare. As stipulated in the UDO, any subdivision with 50 or more residential units must have 2 separate entrances. This is in Chapter 6, Section 1, Section C on page 145, and I have copies of that if anybody wants to look it over. While the proposed development only consists of 29 lots, the total number of residential units within the subdivision will amount to 61. Ignoring the policies established for subdivisions exceeding 50 residential units due to its phased development approach raises serious questions about the effectiveness and integrity of our county's government oversight. We respectfully request that the plat be revised to reduce the number of lots so the entrance off Egbert onto Timberlake Drive only services 49 lots. This will achieve 2 things. It'll meet the requirement of the UDO as intended, and it will increase the lot sizes to preserve the rural character of Green Township. Allowing the proposed plat without adhering to the requirements for 2 separate entrances sets a dangerous precedent for future developments. It sends the message to developers that they can exploit loopholes in the regulations by splitting their projects into multiple phases. This undermines the integrity of the UDO. It erodes the public trust in the Planning Commission's commitment to safety and regulatory adherence. Furthermore, during the November 2023 meeting, I strongly advocated for implementation of a traffic impact study Tier 1 rather than settling for a trip generation statement so that we can better analyze the safety risks to our community that this development will pose. Only a trip generation statement was provided. The anticipated increase in traffic possesses significant concerns for public safety and the usability of our roads, especially for pedestrians. One significant issue heightening these concerns is the absence of sidewalks within the neighborhood, depriving children of a safe environment to ride their bikes and residents of a conductive space to walk their dogs once the proposed development is complete. Despite the UDO being designed to address such deficiencies, the phased nature of our development means that the policies intended to safeguard against these issues may not apply. If the proposal for a second entrance is granted, we would still request that a Tier 1 traffic study be conducted. This study is essential to comprehensively understand the traffic flow and dynamics, as the additional entrance may not fully address the substantial increase to traffic for the sole 4-way stopway within the neighborhood. As a concerned resident, I want to place my trust in the Planning Commission with regard to this development and any future developments, particularly when issues of public safety and quality of life are at stake. Anything less would be a disservice to the trust placed in you by the residents of Morgan County. Additionally, by decreasing the lot number and increasing the lot sizes, it will not only help preserve the rural character as mentioned before, it will also assist future lot owners with septic approval. There are several 1-acre lots currently proposed, and coupled with the densely wooded nature of this area, this poses significant challenges for potential septic installation and flexibility of allowed septic locations. While the soil has been tested and deemed acceptable, general septic installations, each lot will still require 3 borings per site at minimum to have a septic approved. We are currently seeing lots in our section struggling with septic approval, and we would hate to see this as a potential burden for future buyers, especially once the developer is no longer involved. Moreover, there are major concerns regarding potential soil contamination and environmental issues arising in this area, previously being a campground. As a means to clean up the items and buildings and campers that were left behind on this property, the developer has been burning substantial quantities of trash during this cleanup process. The emission of large black clouds, as already mentioned earlier today, accompanied by noxious fumes, has been deeply concerning to the residents of Timberlake Woods. It is our understanding that there were buried fuel tanks and septic tanks left after the campground was vacated. We would like to request that proper documentation on the removal of the fuel tanks be provided and/or soil testing is conducted with IDEM oversight to ensure the proper regulations have been followed during the clearing of this land. We also would like to request that perhaps soil testing could occur to make sure that contamination hasn't already occurred back there. That potentially could cause health risks to future lot owners or current Green Township residents that have properties downstream of this development. So I have have we determined that the water is going to be brought in wells or not? Is that I don't know if that's been cleared.
Oh, water coming, supplied, you mean?
Water going to section 3, that is, okay, I'll skip that.
No wells.
All right, and then the last thing I want to bring up is that in the UDO, in Chapter 6, Section 10, Part A, it states that the proposed name of a subdivision shall not duplicate or too closely approximate phonetically the name of any other subdivision within the jurisdiction and surrounding areas. We need to ensure that the names Timberlake Woods and Timberlake Waters are distinct from each other such that potential lot buyers clearly understand that these subdivisions are entirely separate entities and ensure that they are clearly aware what covenants and restrictions apply to their land. Presently, residents of Timberlake Waters must navigate an entrance that is marked as Timberlake Woods, potentially leading to misconceptions about what development they may be a part of and what covenants they may be bound by. By implementing a distinct naming convention, we can help alleviate any confusion and emphasize the independent nature of each subdivision, facilitating transparency and clarity for all parties involved. As a resident of Timberlake Woods that received the covenants for Timberlake Estates, a subdivision that is off of 67, when purchasing my home, I am well aware of the confusion, frustration that can occur when this type of standard is not upheld. I also would like to point out that during the council meeting last Monday, our neighborhood was referred to as Timberlake Estates. So there's already confusion between our neighborhood and Timberlake Estates, and adding another subdivision on Timberlake Waters would add to that confusion. So just to reiterate, and I will give you guys a list of my requests, I would like the Planning Commission to review my request for 1, a construction entrance and/or increased surety bond or road deposit from the developer, a second entrance for the new development, or the proposed lot number to be reduced by 18. A Tier 1 traffic study to be done to analyze the safety and increased traffic that the new development will have on current intersections in Section 1, and if a second entrance is proposed, to ensure that the location of the second entrance mitigates any traffic flow issues within the neighborhood, and it is safe for the current residents. 4, that the final plat to include documentation from the developer showing proper removal of any fuel tanks and appropriate trash disposal as per IDEM regulations. 5, ensure that city water is extended to section 1, or extended from section 1 to all lots in section 3. And then 6, change the name to prevent confusion and covenants or misconception when purchasing the property in that neighborhood. According to the UDO, Chapter 7, Section 1, Section D, Section 6, the Planning Commission needs to determine if the development complies with the standard of the UDO and uses all reasonable efforts to mitigate the impact of the proposed subdivision on public health, safety, and welfare. I have clearly outlined how this development does not comply with the standards in the UDO and how it will not and has not used all reasonable efforts to mitigate impacts on public health, safety, and welfare. I urge the Planning Commission to carefully consider my requests as a concerned resident of Morgan County. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Greg Weigel? Your husband want to speak? You're good? Is that James Oaks? James Oaks? Okay.
That I couldn't tell.
Amber Oaks, would you like to speak? Not now, okay. Robin Thompson? Okay. Michelle Walker? Good. Jason Thompson?
I'm Jason Thompson, neighbor just south of the proposed subdivision. And a couple months ago at your November meeting, I mentioned some concerns about water drainage, especially as they're clearing land, removing trees, paving, and building structures. The main thing that I wanted to share is that I was approached afterwards saying, by Mr. Presnell, saying you control this by how much you allow to spill over. However, you can't plan for flooding events. It just doesn't work that way. And furthermore, none of the maps that have been provided have shown the floodplains immediately beneath the retention pond in this proposal. So I did want to share that with you. That lake is 35 feet above the creek, and 35 feet above the two fields. The one field immediately south, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And also the field that is just off of Fire Station Road, that's also in the purple stripes.
Do you want to use this pointer so we can see better?
Sure.
Button right there.
Yeah.
So this is the big lake, and there's already kind of a natural spillway. But this field down here is well within, sorry, probably use the mic. This field is, 35 feet below this lake, along with this field that is also in the family. And there's a couple of structures and homes right over here also. So I just wanted to point out my concerns about how much more water is going to be drained and moved downstream. We already experience events where at the intersection of Fire Station and Maple Grove Road that prohibits traffic in flash flood situations, and this is only going to increase those. So I do have some printouts of this if it would help you guys, if you want.
We already have one.
All right. Very good.
All right, thank you. Virginia Keller, excuse me. Okay. Is everyone's on our list?
Oh, I care about it. You got enough build area up here. I don't know what to do.
Droplik, would you like a rebuttal?
Yeah, you're gonna have some of this spillway, I mean, there's no doubt.
As we look at the whole history of this project, this whole 129 acres, which comprises of Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3, were all rezoned by the Morgan County Planning Commission from agriculture to R1 zoning. So that is residential zoning. So if you weren't intending to have developed a piece of property, why would you have gotten it rezoned? So I think that it's clearly evident that the intent was to utilize that whole 129 acres for a subdivision at some point. Granted, the economy went south, building went down. It went down everywhere, not just here, not just in Green Township. It went down everywhere. But I think that it's clearly obvious that the Planning Commission in 2004 looked at this property and said this is the highest and best use of this piece of property. Or you wouldn't have recommended rezoning to the county commissioners. Then the county commissioners reviewed it, they agreed with the Planning Commission's assessment, and they approved the rezoning. So this property is to be used, and its highest and best use is residential. Whether we like it or not, that's, whether this specific Planning Commission, that's what was done in the past. And I think that there is an obligation to keep up with that because there was an expectation of what the property would be used for. As far as the secondary entrance, there again, Planning Commission at the time back in 2004 looked at it, saw one entrance only, and approved it. In fact, we had shown an easement coming in off of Egbert Road at the back of some of the lots. The Planning Commission recommended that that easement not be there because who would want a construction entrance or a dusty road in in anyone's backyard? So that was eliminated. Purposely took that out because the Planning Commission at the time, or members of the Planning Commission, said that they didn't want to see that easement. So that was taken out. So what are we stuck? We're stuck with, yes, one entrance. Is one entrance too much for 60 homes? I know the UDO says 50. I would contend that this whole project was started prior to the UDO. The rezoning was already in place, and we were only limited to one entrance. We don't own any more ground. We don't have another way of doing it, short of buying someone else out. I don't think that was the intent of the original rezoning. Now, the county, yeah, you can go in and condemn another entrance for it. You've got the right of condemnation. So you'd have to refer that to the commissioners. As far as construction entrance goes, as we develop this property and we move forward, once we get our preliminary plat approved, now we're a development. We're bound by IDEM's requirements for soil erosion and water detention and everything else at that point forward. Our construction entrance will have to construct a minimum of 150 foot or 150 foot long construction entrance with the goals of to limit the amount of tracking out onto a county road or a public road. I think we have to look at it that Once these streets in Section 1 are accepted by the county, they are a county road. They're not Timberlake's Woods streets. They will be county roads. We cannot track out on the county road. If we don't follow the IDEM procedures, they've got hefty penalties to assess a developer that does not keep the tracking off of the property or off the public ways. The other thing that was discussed was home design. We've said this before Planning Commission. It's not for the Planning Commission to dictate the quality of the homes, just the density. How many can we have? These lots are all in equal to or in excess of the size of the lots in Section 1 and 2. And quite honestly, the economics will dictate that a larger home is going to be required because, quite frankly, the cost of the property and the cost of the lots are going to be higher. And I don't think you're going to spend an excessive amount of money and put a modular home on it. It just doesn't happen. The road design, like I said, the road design, that's to the county standards. We've committed to that. I'm not going to waver from that. Section 3 signage is fully our intent that we want to put a sign and a permanent sign in between Section 2 and 3. And as far as what the name of it is, we don't care. If that's the only sticking point that we've got is the name of the subdivision, that's really easy to change. We can change the name of a subdivision at any point. As far as floodplain's concerned, the floodplain is shown on the preliminary plat, and it's actually shown in more detail than what the GIS is. As far as the preliminary plat, we've given you much more information than what you've seen in many years that's required. We've shown you contours, a 2-foot contour interval, showing you where the existing drainage is going, showing you where the floodplain's at, to the nearest foot. So we've plotted it where it's at. And it only affects a certain amount of lots, just at the ends of the streets, but not the building sites, because those are excessively sized lots. Like I said, as far as who owns the rights of way, we don't care, because the plat says of Section 1 and Section 2, the rights of way are dedicated to the public use. So that's not limited to the people that live there. If you want to go out to Foxcliff and look at their streets are owned by the homeowners association. Their rights of way are owned by the homeowners association. Same way with Painted Hills. Those are not county roads. So, you know, the way I can sum this up is that it was originally approved for residential. It was approved at the layout for Section 1 was approved with just one entrance, knowing that there would be additional development. And that's all I have to add at this point, because I don't see, I think that we've complied with everything that they've asked for. Thank you. Yeah. Mr. President, I would like to address you.
I'd like to address a few of the things that were brought up. One, we bought this. It was a dump. When it comes to burning the debris back there, I can show you many tickets. We probably spent $50,000 cleaning up all the trailers, all the old sheds, all the stuff, and they were not all burnt. We hauled off, we burnt wood and we hauled off everything else. And O'Neill over there on 252 could attest to it, because that's who got it all. So if I was coming in here today, we went in and we timbered, we took out all the old dead ash, and I think we've made it a much safer place than what it was. And if this was cleared property and I was coming in today and I was wanting to haul a bunch of old campers in, a bunch of old sheds, I'd be getting fought. We're cleaning it up and making it nice. It wasn't nothing but a breeding ground for meth labs and vagrants. And it's surprising that that wasn't happening there. It had grown up so thick you couldn't even, a rabbit couldn't get through it. So we come in and doing an extension, the interest was that it was already platted subdivision. Before it had already been zoned RR. I had numerous conversations with Laura and discussed the different options, different possibilities. Miss Marva Green, who owned it all or bought it originally from the Hoskins, she had bought it in good faith of the same thing too. She's a very, very nice, good business lady from Illinois. And so somewhere along the line, she sold off half of it, but her idea when she bought it was that she was buying this to be a subdivision at some point. So I want to address the debris and everything and what we're clearing in there now. We took out all the old dead, dangerous ash trees. The residents of section 1 or 2, whatever you want to call it, I've got with everybody. They've been invited in there. Anytime we burned, I don't know if you guys have been down that subdivision, but it's nothing but fire chiefs and cops, okay? So there's no lack of authority in there. So we contact them when we're doing burning. Mr. Phelps comes back there as the other fellow many times of an evening and drinks beer with the boys after they're done working and oversees the fire. So we've done it supervised. Has there been some times that the wind was blowing it the wrong direction and the boys got caught and it ended up subdivision? Yes, and I've apologized to everybody for that. It was not intentional. I have told them many times to make sure you check the wind before you light the fires. Don't light more than 1 or 2 at a time. There was got to be a little crunch time this fall trying to get some things done and get it cleaned up before the leaves got off when we were doing all of our aerial topography and photography stuff and things for future plans. To address the construction entrance, I would love to have a construction entrance where it used to be, the main entrance that come down the east property line. But there's a couple of fences in yards been built across it. But I think that was the original intent, according to Joe Hankins, which I've communicated with regularly. But we can't use that now, but I would be more than happy. We don't want to go back and forth through the subdivision if we can help it, but we don't have a choice. These are the access roads to this property. Everybody knew it when they bought their property. Everybody knew it was first section of several sections. So I don't know why everybody's surprised. But we would be more than happy to go down that east line, straight out, in and out with construction, if the neighbors would be so kind to take their fences down and their yards are going to get disturbed for a little bit. So as far as the entrance goes, we are a separate subdivision and want it to look like a separate subdivision. The front part was a cornfield. The back part's all wooded. So we had plans anyway. I'm glad the neighbors brought it up because we were going to ask anyway if we could put signage up and landscaping just as you leave the bare ground and go into the pretty woods in a different look, different feel because it's wooded and it's got the lakes and stuff in it. So we're more than happy to do that. We do have 2 entrances for subdivision. An entrance on the east side and an entrance on the west side. So we do have 2, and as Ross said, if nothing else, it wasn't part of the UDO when this was laid out originally anyway. So it's a technicality that we can't change at this point, and I know it. As far as the floodplain issue the last gentleman brought up, when you're down in the floodplain, it's 35 foot down to the creek. These buildings down the creek, the ground is up the top. And a little correction to add a little bit of the size of these lots, if you guys have looked, they're 1.5 acre to 5 and 6 acre lots. Somebody talked about wanting to do bigger lots. We have bigger lots than the subdivision up front now, and prettier lots, in my opinion, just because they're wooded and they're on a lake. As Ross said, when you go in to do a subdivision, you guys know your job and you deal with plenty of developers. We have to go in and we have to meet drainage compliance. Well, we've got 2 built-in retention ponds that are 2 lakes. And you can't let water throttle out and go down to that creek at any faster rate after the development than before. Am I correct, Ross? You'll probably reduce it to what it is now. with all the rain we've had recently, we still haven't even seen water go through an overflow pipe up there now on the big lake, and it's only this big around. We wish it would. We wish the lakes would fill back up a little bit more. So we've got built-in retention. And the issue about the floodplain over the bottom, like I said, that's what primary plat, or final plat does. Ross has got to go back and he's got to do the design engineering for the roads and all the drainage for the property and all the lot lines and stuff. So all that gets taken care of in the process. So I'm trying to think if there's any other issues that was brought up that I wanted to address. But anyway, we have been in compliance. I thought what was going to get brought up was some mud, as I mentioned, a little bit of this mud on the drive. Joe Hankins regraded and put a little gravel in that section 2 on the east side part over there, but it left a little puddle right there, but it actually allowed the boys to wash their tires off. We had this ground timbered. We did not go in and out of the subdivision, even though we had a right to. I got a hold of Robert Lee, the guy that owns, I've known Robert for years, and he owns the farm to the west, and he left an area there unplowed, and the guys not only used that, but they waited till we had that lucked out and had that freeze here a few weeks ago. So all the timber that would have normally been going out through the subdivision, we were showing the courtesy. I did not want to do that. I wouldn't want that done to me. Nobody's thanked us for anything we have done. They've just complained about things we haven't. So we've cleaned up this property of all this junk and debris, and we have went out the other exit. We would love to use the old drive coming in, what was Buckley's campground, for the construction entrance as well. We've cleaned up the junk, we've cleaned up the tops, and basically made a beautiful property back there that was nothing more than a place with a bunch of trailers, and there was a whole lot more trailers and little sheds than I even realized when we went in there, because it was so thick when we bought it in there and stuff, and we keep finding more, and we have. So as far as neighbors go, your largest neighbors are John and Jen Abraham, all the way down our east side. Robert Lee said if anybody comes in here and says that he wasn't for this development, to give him his cell number. He owns mostly all the way down the west side of the property. And you don't see the one of them here worried about anything, complaining about anything. And these are the guys that own property in the neighborhood when the front subdivision was developed, and they would have preferred not to have this zoned and all the extra neighbors in there. So we're just following what Ross said was already laid out. Way back, it was zoned RR, and we're just following that. We want to try to comply and make it as painless as possible. And so I don't like doing this kind of stuff because I like to bring out the best in people, the worst. I'm not on social media, but the things I've heard that people have been putting and saying on social media, I'm saddened to be a part of something that brings out that kind of junior high behavior in people, some of the stuff that I've seen and heard in social media on that. How sad, okay? We're just trying to comply with something that was already laid out. Just finishing the project is basically what we're doing. It's a whole lot easier. Everybody just if nobody calls me, everybody just complains on social media. If you got something, just call me. I'll meet with you. We'll address it. I have got a call before when the smoke was over there. I apologized, and I've had the guys put rebuttal stuff on the social media on my behalf, some of the fire chief guys over there and stuff. But I think we're making the property way better than it is, and you know, I thought I wasn't expecting a pat on the back and an attaboy, but I sure as heck wasn't anybody not to acknowledge we was cleaning up what really was a dump. Am I wrong? And any neighbor, either one of our neighbors who offered to help, if you had campers on your property that got left, we didn't have to go clean it up. While we're there, we're cleaning that up, cleaning that fence out. Robert Lee the same way. I mean, I don't want to say we're bending over backwards, but I'm a neighborly guy. I'm a guy I own a lot of land, and I got people that are developing by me all the time. I always try to accommodate them, help them any way I can, give them easements, whatever I need to do. You know, just get along. So we're still here and get along with anybody, address anybody's issues, reasonable issues that any homeowners have, you know, in the subdivision stuff. But reality is, it was a subdivision section to start with, and everybody knew it when they bought. Everybody knew it was back there. And everybody enjoys walking back there now that we've got it cleaned up and enjoying the property, and I want them to continue to do that. Nobody in the front section has to drive through the back section to go anywhere and see anything. Our covenants and restrictions, our CCRs, are more stringent than Section 1. One of the reasons we didn't want to be a part of it. Our legal says, I don't even think their HOA is legal, okay? Ours is, it will be. It will be a legitimate HOA. There's 3 HOAs in there. If there's going to be 3 HOAs, I was confused earlier whether they wanted 3 HOAs or they were complaining about 3 HOAs, because then we said later, well, we want separation between these sections and stuff. I'm tickled to do it, and if anybody wants to change the name, like Ross said, I don't care what we call it. I would love to have a separation because I believe that part of the development is a separate development because it's wooded and has lakes and stuff in it. So I'm happy to work with however you want to work. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth back to some of the statements were made. Does anybody have any questions with me?
Yeah, you mentioned in the back on your tanks back there, was anybody around there when you pulled those tanks out of the ground, or was there any tanks in the ground?
Glad you brought that up. There has been no fuel tanks that I've seen on there anyway. What there has been that we are having a pile we have to get rid of in a different way is propane tanks. There's been no fuel tanks. And by the way, the septic fields, you guys have been back there before, we appreciate this. Do you really think there was that many septic fields back there for every one of them campers? No, they were a 55-gallon drum at best. You know what I'm talking about. We've pulled everything that we know to pull out, okay? We have found no septic fields, but if we did, we'd take them out and replace them. Anything that we don't do, believe me, we got into a whole lot more back there than what I figured, but there has been no fuel tanks and no septic tanks, just 55-gallon drums and PVC pipe, lots of PVC pipe. So we've taken that, piled it up. I've had a crew 2 different times, a ground crew go through with dump trailers, just picking up the handbrake stuff that we couldn't get with the thumb on the track hoe or that wouldn't drag up stuff. Give us a little bit more time. We're cleaning up tops right now, but I welcome anybody to come back there and see it. And if you didn't see it before, I've got plenty of pictures to show, but they're only about that far in front of your face because that's all the further you could see in there. But, you know, I know one neighbor, I know 2 neighbors on the tickled to death way of cleaning it up, but I know some guys in the front that have been back there and complimented us on cleaning it up. You're not going to timber a piece of property. You're not going to clean up a bunch of junk without making a little bit of mess doing it. I'm not that good, and I'm real good. I like things very nice, very neat, very clean. I'm very picky, okay? Let me go ask 2 crews that have been going through there picking up hand stuff. So we're all about doing it right and doing a good job and something to be proud of. And nobody's going to pay the kind of prices for land today that it's going to take us to develop that and build something inexpensive in there. We have square footage minimums. We have other minimums as far as what they have to have on the building. Barn dominiums are popular today than they were in the front. We're allowing barn dominiums back there. When you talk about inconsistency, drive through Section 1. Ours will not be that. There is a lot of inconsistency up there. And I don't mean to pick on anybody. Final home, brick home, doesn't make the person any different. I'm not saying that. But the Section 1 has not adhered to their own CCRs. And you can easily see that by driving through and seeing the inconsistency of the property. So I don't want to hear a whole lot from them about values of property back there. And again, anybody building in the back section, they've got to drive past and look at the front ones. And there's some very nice houses in there. I'm not saying that. But nobody in the front section has to drive through the back section to go anywhere and see anything. If you don't want to see it, don't go back there. So anyway, any other questions?
What is your minimum square footage going to be?
What is it in there, Roger? 18? 1,800, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. This closes our public portion of the hearing. Ms. Parker, I'd like for you to step to the mic, if you would. Take your notes.
They have a drainage easement here that does it, and they can't, they have plenty of space to build.
Can you address the one concern the lady had that we weren't meeting our ordinance?
So I will say that this is a little bit of a hybrid because we do have a section that was intended. We have new batteries.
Batteries?
No,
It's okay now, all right. So it's hard to apply today's standards to the property that was there before. It was rezoned. It is in the future land use plan to be developed residentially, so all of that makes sense. As I said in my staff report, we have a situation where we have an opportunity to have more lots using less farm ground versus pushing sprawl, which is the bigger lots consuming more farm ground more rapidly than we would normally like. But in terms of, in response to your question, the standards have been followed. There's, you know, when you start talking about the purpose language in the ordinance, it's very broad, but when you get down to the actual standards, and do they meet the standards for a preliminary plat, they do. It's technically a separate subdivision.
The lots meet the size requirement?
Yes.
They're all over an acre, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm pretty sure of that. Now, the traffic study we have, they supplied that to us?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's a separate subdivision, they only had to comply with 50 or less. So
Okay.
there's 29 proposed. So there wasn't really any means legally that I had to compel them to do a greater traffic study.
Okay. And you have your letter from our engineer also, along with that traffic study in your packet. So, we also had a check report from Health Department saying they had no issues for the septic from Bobby Canarum. Any other questions for Laura while she's up here?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to redirect a question to Mr. Prill.
No, we shut the meeting, the
All right,
public
all right.
portions down.
Okay,
Bill.
all right.
Kenny, would you state what your conversation you had with Mr. Hankins?
Mr. Hankins today, yes. I'd left him a couple messages and hadn't heard from him, but he did call me today, talking about the roads, wanting to confirm what conditions we'd put on the conditional approval on section 1, and the commissioners did vote on that 3-1. The first condition is HOA to provide the dedication, deed of dedication. Also, the second condition, crack sealing be paid for by the HOA at 100%. And I let Joe know that, and then I told him what I wanted to know. Joe, you know, you committed to Dagon Section 2 paving that several years ago, and I said, I just need to know, you've got your base in, but I said, are you gonna pave that? And he says, yeah, I'm hoping to work with Mr. Presnell. We can maybe do it all together and get a cheaper bid on it by doing it all together. My bottom line is, I told him, making sure that he does that. I wouldn't have a problem with restricting him from getting permits. I mean, that's,
I'm
I
kind of
mean,
in favor of that, too.
because we give him approval, but he's supposed to have that. So, I mean, I don't have a problem restricting permits on them like that. That's just my 2 cents on it. And I don't think that we need to be holding up the back subdivision on what Mr. Hankins failed to do at this point, or what's been done up front. I mean, I think they've got some very nice homes up front. Roadway, we are gonna take them in as soon as they do them conditions. they'll be voted on as soon as we get that, so. That's all I can say that he told me today. Asked him to be here tonight, and he had a football game somewhere. He's coaching little football, so I don't know. That's just what he told me.
I just have a technical question that I should probably know the answer to. If this is preliminary platted as Timberlake Waters, and they choose to rename that subdivision, can they just rename it, or do they have to go through some other process to make that happen? Because everybody seems to be in agreement that that could happen.
If they want to change the name, they can. They can put that on
Their final plat.
plat.
Final plat.
not
Okay,
really an issue until it becomes recorded.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Also, it's the same number of lots that were originally platted? Yes. Same number of lots? Bill, you got a question? I can see you look puzzled
I got
down
a
there.
question. He was talking about being friends with Mr. Lee. This is off my cover now. If he could get friends off Mr. Lee, why couldn't he buy some ground off Mr. Lee on the west side of that property and let them put a road in there to take care of that second 2 and 3 development on that road to the west? If Mr. Lee would sell him property, that would save the whole problem of HOH in the first section, having that traffic come up through there. If Mr. Lee would sell him right away to put a road back through there to that section 1 or section 2 and section 3, they would be totally out of that first section of development up there. And they'd have a wide open road, be another exit into the place, other than one exit. It would make these people a lot happier that's already living up there, not to have extra traffic come in through there. If Mr. Lee would sell him the right of way to build a road on the west side of that property, would save a whole lot of disagreements, I think, if Mr. Lee would do that. I ask you, sir, to solve a lot of problems, because a lot of people here tonight.
He doesn't want to sell anything, and that's an extra expense that, that's not an issue. That's not.
That's farm ground. We're all here because we don't want farmland developed.
Let's, Bill,
Well, it was just a suggestion.
Yeah.
There's nothing big about it.
any other comments?
I think the interesting thing about that is if you'd ever been back there when it was Green Acres Campground, I know Mr. Abraham may know, but there was a heck of a lot more than 29 campers in there with 55-gallon drums.
A lot more than that, yeah.
And I cut some hay off of that place for a few years on the other side of the pond, but there's nothing else you can do with this ground but make a subdivision out of it. It's when the 129 acres was first proposed, it was going to be one subdivision, and fate had a way of not making it that. And it's come to what it is now, and we can't go back to what we wanted to start with. I think there was 3 of us on the board at that time that we did that, and when we talk about easements back in there, those are yards right now with grass and everything else on it. And it was pretty well thought out, I thought then, but it is what it is now. And homeowners want to get together, that's one thing, but we don't have, to my knowledge, any way of forcing any of that on them other than to approve or disapprove this.
No say over the
say
HOAs
on
or
it.
covenants or anything such as that.
So, you know, if they get the roads up to snuff, and I would love for them to put in the water, but I can't force things. Mr. Aver's gonna, that water lake, dam lakes, he's gonna have a little bit of problem, but that's about the only thing I can think of. That's it.
And just to address the drainage and the erosion and the release rates will all be submitted through the surveyor's office and it'll be reviewed. So, and it'll all be through our ordinance and the state's ordinance, so it will be reviewed.
And it may have been released to your office when we did the whole thing, what, 20-some years ago.
So, any other comments or? If not, we have 2 things we have to do, correct? vacate, replat, and then, do we vacate first, or do we?
Yes.
So the first thing we have a vote to, a motion. Approve, deny, continue the vacate and replat. The first item we have to take care of. So that's your options. You can approve, deny, or continue. So I will I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the vacation request of MAP-23-01.
Do we have a second to vacate the request, the replat? Mr. Rumball seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next thing we have on our agenda is to vote to approve, deny, or continue the preliminary plat.
Kenny Hill makes a motion, we approve the preliminary plat on MAP-23-01.
Hell has made a motion to approve the preliminary plat. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion also.
Mr. Rumball seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I would request a motion that Section 2 is not allowed to have any more building permits until the roads are completed.
Say that again?
2, correct?
I would make that motion.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion to withhold building permits until the road is completed in Section 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You don't win as a developer. I said you can't win as a developer most times. That's a tough situation.
Few spots around here years ago. I used to do a lot of business. There was a city out there.
If I bought a lot, I would hope somebody would do that place.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was such beautiful ground.
Have you ever driven it? You have? I have not.
Blue.
I'm driving there.
There's that.
That's what I got. I don't particularly
Nobody likes blue.
like the green.
Sucker.
Mr. Hamilton. Who's going to present his?
Military bill. Yeah,
I'm not
Patrick didn't
surprised
come
that
on
they
till
would
later.
find.
Yeah, there's only 3 of them. You, Bill, and Terry, because Brian wasn't on it back then in '04.
Right, and you were.
Everyone, we're getting ready to go to our next item.
Oh, he wasn't there
I
then.
didn't come in. I didn't-
Everyone.
I took that position in November
Laura,
20.
Can you go ask him that?
Yeah, the first 3.
Excuse me, guys, we got another thing to do. If you guys step out in the hallway to talk, thank you.
Yeah, it's all Abraham. He's noisy. You know John Abraham. You know John.
What's our?
You know John Abraham. All right, I figured you did.
Move on, shall we?
You know his dad.
Public hearing for vacate replat RP 2401. Oh, we got lights. Wow, now we can see. Bernard Hamilton is seeking to vacate lots 3, 4, and 5 and replat them to lots 3, 4, 5, and 6. An Ashland Acres subdivision. The property is located 11533 and 11599 West Ohana Lake in Ashland Township and is zoned Ag Is it still zoned ag?
What's that?
I didn't catch what he said.
Kind of school kids is what it would be.
I don't know how they can quite determine that it was noxious smoke.
Decided Bigfoot on this property right here.
It was noxious. Propane tanks and.
I come prepared, I got the big flat. I can see this one.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Where'd everybody go? But, I'm Ross Strubling. I'm here representing the Hamiltons in this request. And this has a little bit of an interesting history because it hasn't been that long ago that this subdivision was brought up to the Plan Commission within the last 12 to 18 months, I would guess. Yeah, and at that point, Mr. Hamilton, who was the father, owned lot number 3, and he decided to change some lot lines around and combine lot number 6 with lot number 3. And he has since passed away. And in settling the estate, the family now would like to go back and recreate lot number 6 as basically a sellable lot. There's still some reconfigurations of lot numbers 3, 4, and 5, but those are the same, in essence, the same 3 lots that were there, just the lot lines shifted one way or another. And then lot number 6, which is north of the creek there, which really has no access to the lots on the south side of the creek, would now be, again, its standalone parcel. Its access is via Hicks Lane. And verifying with the county, Hicks Lane is a county-maintained road all the way from State Road 42 back to basically our west property line. So that is a dedicated road. I believe now this is a plat that I've presented to you is different than the one that you may have seen, that Laura may have distributed out. There were 3 technical items which needed to be addressed. One being that we had a statement on there about dedication of roads, which Hicks Lane had already been dedicated, and the roads within the easements serving lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they're just in easements, so they will not ever be dedicated. Those are all private. So we struck that line from the dedication. There was also a question, we had the chairperson, for this plan commission, we call it the chairperson rather than the president, so we just changed that. That was a second item. And a third item was, it was requested that we create a natural buffer line per the IDEM, or Indiana Department of Environmental Management requirements, a 50-foot buffer, natural buffer on each side of the creek. And that has been graphically delineated as a buffer, and then also the notations that were provided on how that's to be treated is also included on the plat. So with that said, I believe that we've met all the requirements of staff, and just presenting this for your approval at this time. And I do have Mr. Hamilton here if there are any questions.
Just to let you know about that buffer, that's brand new, the new rule that's passed. So,
And you will see, though, that we did not extend that on the lots 1 and 2 because they are not part of this specific action.
good. Any questions for Mr. Roplick?
And which lot did the father that passed away occupied?
Lot number 3. And that property, the east property line, well, all, the north, the east, and the west property lines are in the same place as original. The south property line has been changed. Originally, I believe it went all the way down to the south line of what is now Lot 5. And it was just felt that Mr. Hamilton that's here owns lot number 5, and he maintains everything south of the pond. So it just made more sense just to chop it off there at the point of the pond.
Okay. Thank you, thank you.
The front two lots have never been replatted, had they, Ross?
No,
They
they
stay
haven't.
from the original?
Well, other than when Ashland Acres was originally vacated and replanted. 'Cause
Any
I
other
believe at
questions for
that
me?
time it was like a 28-lot subdivision or something like that. 10 lots, okay, it was larger. It was, sorry, I got that number.
Good try. Any other questions for Mr. Droplik? Nope, all right, thanks. Mr. Hamilton, would you like to speak, or are you good? Okay. We have our recommendation from our executive, from Laura. I believe she recommends passage of it, correct? There was really no technical, they addressed all of our technical concerns in their plat, so. We'll close the public portion of the hearing. Any comments? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I move we approve petition RP-24-01.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck with Mr. Hamilton.
Even here.
Next on the agenda. Mark. Laura, our attorney first. Mr. Peden, do you have anything to address? You have?
Look at me in the eye. What was it, a month or two ago, a gentleman addressed you regarding our enforcement action on his property, and that he said he had appealed it. Oh, that was September, I think.
That was.
It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah.
So we did get word that he lost his appeal, so just wanted to bring you that update. And then we do have 2 petitions filed for next month, so keep your dance card open, please.
Have we got a date yet for the 8th, April 8th?
No, that's the other thing we need to talk about. The county commissioners are going to be closing county government for during the eclipse on April the 8th, and that's usually our plan commission meeting. Obviously, we can't bump it to Tuesday because it's a fair board night, so we start running into issues the following, like if we were to bump it to that Wednesday, because this room's going to get shared for voting, so it's going to become tight, and there are other conflicting needs of this room, so we may need to look at bumping it into the following week.
Sure.
Just interested in what everybody's thoughts are on that. We do have commissioners meeting in the evening the following Monday,
So that'd be Tuesday or after.
so it would have to be a Tuesday or Wednesday likely. Everybody checking their calendars,
So
see.
you're saying the week of the 8th won't work?
What's going on?
The,
Oh, they're gonna be voting.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
they'll be voting in the back, yeah.
And do we know that we need a meeting in April?
We don't have any petitions filed yet, but that deadline won't come until March.
Okay.
So it's something that we can pick something tentatively, and if there's nothing that's urgent or needs to come to you, maybe we
So-
can get it pushed off, but
We're looking at the 16th then, correct, on a Tuesday?
yes.
That'd be best for me, because Monday, the 15th, 17th, 18th, 19th, I got stuff. But
Let's shoot.
16th, I'm wide open.
Let's shoot for the 16th,
Okay.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday the 16th.
We'll just make it tentative, and obviously if we don't have any petitions filed, but at least then I have a date that I can communicate with petitioners on when they need to get their public notice completed, so. Right, right. So we'll go with that date tentatively. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Sounds good.
That's all I had.
That's all you have? Who? Oh, jeez. Uh-oh. Who's talking down there?
With our UDO, when can we make changes to that? And how would that process go?
It's just like any other amendment to that ordinance. We would have to prepare documentation, we have to do public notice, allow 30 days for the public to review and comment, hold a public hearing in front of this body, make a recommendation that would then get forwarded to the commissioners.
Okay.
So that's how that
I was
works.
just wondering because it's, well, a big hole showed up tonight, I think, and needs to be addressed somehow. Which I knew there would be. I mean, there's always something.
We have our warts in this county, so we're going to run into these kinds of situations from time to time. And there's no perfect solution. The UDO is really written for brand new, first time in the door. It's hard to address things where you kind of have a little bit of overlap between the old and the new.
I know we had talked maybe 2-3 years and then sit down and fix things we find
Right.
along the way. I just didn't know how long or it would take for, if something comes up, because like you
Anytime.
said, you can't catch everything. There's
Right.
going to be some.
And there's
things
no
get
way to
by.
write the ordinance to address every possible situation. You can't do it. So, right now, I don't really know of any burning issues, but if there's something that y'all have concerns with, by all means, we can address it. Okay. Let's talk.
That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions? All right. Well, our next meeting is March 11th. I will call for a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Do we have a second? Meeting's adjourned.
Got like
Bill?
6